Hello everyone. So in the last lecture, we had seen the drugs that were used in the management of congestive cardiac failure, basically ACE inhibitors, ARBs, then beta blockers, diuretics. So these were the drugs. And now in this lecture, we'll basically be focusing on the inotropic drugs, the cardiac glycoside that is digoxin. So inotropic drugs, basically these are the drugs with beta adrenergic agonist actions which have a positive inotropic effect. Inotropic, you all very well know, inotropic is which increases the force of contraction. Okay, and at low doses they have the vasodilator properties. Okay, which may be utilized to combat the emergency pump failure. So dobutamine, it's a selective beta-1 agonist with prominent inotropic action. It is given intravenously in acute heart failure, advanced decompensated congestive heart failure. Okay. So, but due to development of tolerance, when it is used regularly, it is not used in the long-term management. Okay, because all the actions of these drugs they develop tolerance. There's one more class that is phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitor, okay, which has a positive inotropic effect, and these drugs are also vasodilators. They dilate the vessels, which are called as inodilator basically. So this is milrinone, enamrinone. Dopamine, basically, at low doses it activates dopaminergic 1 receptors. Intermediate doses will activate beta 1, beta 2 receptors, and high doses will activate alpha 1 and D2 receptors. Okay, so low doses 1 to 2 microgram per minute per kg. There's vasodilation, renal and mesenteric and coronary vessels they get dilated. Intermediate, that is 2 to 5 microgram per minute per kg. It has a positive inotropic effect. At high doses it will increase because of the alpha 1 action. It will increase the it causes hypertension. Okay, and there will also be nausea and vomiting because of the stimulation of dopaminergic receptors. Okay, but these effects they undergo tolerance. Then there are this dobutamine. Okay, so there is selective activation of beta 1 receptors, which is the main mechanism of action. Higher doses may also cause stimulation of beta 2 receptors and alpha 1 receptor. Okay, so the pharmacological actions of dobutamine at heart, it has positive inotropic effect, which is greater than that of cardiac glycoside. Okay, it has positive dromotropic effect, and there is low positive chromotropic and bathmotropic effect. Now, basically, what happens in heart failure? What is the role of these drugs? There is lowering of left ventricular filling pressure, which will improve the coronary perfusion. Okay, so these drugs they will decrease the left ventricular filling pressure basically, and they will also there is modest decrease in O2 consumption, myocardial O2 consumption. But mind it again, these effects undergo tolerance. At the level of vessels, there is vasodilation, okay, beta 2 mediated vasodilation. Then there is no major change in mean blood pressure, but in some patients there can be hypertension. So at heart, basically what you need to remember is marked positive inotropic effect, and at vessels there is vasodilation. So this will improve coronary perfusion by lowering left ventricular filling pressure. Coming to pharmacokinetic properties of this drug, half-life is just 2 to 3 minutes. So this drug is given by IV infusion. So use of this drug is acute decompensated heart failure or even cardiogenic shock when left ventricular function is severely depressed. So this is the therapeutic use of this drug. Next, what I've mentioned in the earlier lecture is about atrial natriuretic peptide. Okay, and there is ANP and BNP basically, that is brain natriuretic peptide. The role of this peptides is it will increase the GFR, and these drugs inhibit the release of renin. Okay, so as there is an inhibition of renin, the further actions like there is the formation of angiotensin 2 and the further activities which are related to angiotensin 2, they also get inhibited. So atrial natriuretic peptide or brain natriuretic peptide. So there is a drug called necitide, which is a recombinant brain natriuretic peptide. Okay, the action of this drug is activation of guanyl cyclase and increased synthesis of cyclic GMP. Basically, it will cause arteriolar and venous vasodilation, basically, and there will be increased diuresis. The name itself suggests, right? Natriuretic, uretic, that is diuresis. Okay, so there is vasodilation and there is increased diuresis. Pharmacokinetics, again, it has a lesser half-life, so administration is by IV infusion. Adverse effects, they can be hypotension. There is because there is a vasodilation and there is diuresis. So hypotension and renal failure can be life-threatening in some patients. So the use of this drug is basically in treatment of patients who have acute or there is a decompensated heart failure. Okay, atrial natriuretic peptide. Next, there is something called neprilysin inhibitors. They prevent the degradation of natriuretic peptides. So there is something called neprilysin. Okay, this neprilysin is responsible for degradation of this natriuretic peptides. Then there is bradykinin and substance P. Okay, so if the degradation of this natriuretic peptides is inhibited, naturally you get the actions of these peptides which are helpful in patients of acute heart failure, in congestive cardiac failure, basically. So if you give a drug which inhibits this neprilysin, which is responsible for degradation of this useful natriuretic peptides, so bradykinin and substance P, they will be playing an important role in the treatment of congestive cardiac failure. So there is a drug called sacubitril, which is a neprilysin inhibitor. This is combined with valsartan. Valsartan is a ARB, that is angiotensin receptor blocker. So this combination is said to be superior to enalapril. Enalapril, which is an ACE inhibitor. So instead of giving this ACE inhibitor individually, this combination, which is sacubitril combined with valsartan, this is said to be superior by some of the studies. Now coming to cardiac glycosides, okay. Cardiac glycosides, basically these drugs, they increase the contractility of the heart and they increase the output in a hypodynamic heart, but without increasing the O2 consumption demand. Okay, so they will increase the contractility, they will increase the output without increasing the demand for O2. Okay, so the efficiency of a failing heart, that is a congestive heart, is increased. So the contraction is increased and output is increased. Okay, so these are cardiac glycosides. Basically, cardiac glycosides, in this it is that the drug that will be studied is digoxin. There are other drugs like digitoxin and strophanthin, but they are not used clinically. The drug that is being used clinically is digoxin. The source of digoxin is Digitalis lanata. Okay, here I have also given here the picture. Okay, so this is the plant. It is a plant source, Digitalis lanata, from which we get digoxin. So it is the glycoside. Okay, digoxin. So by convention, the term digitalis has come to mean a cardiac glycoside. Okay. Now, basically, the role of digoxin in CCF, this is the mechanism of action. Basically, what happens normally, this is the sodium potassium ATPase pump. What happens here is that the sodium is moved out of the cell and there will be potassium influx. Okay. So now what will happen? There is sodium calcium exchanger of the cell. which will take the sodium in, and there will be exchange of calcium. Okay, so the sodium gradient drives this sodium calcium exchanger. Okay, this happens normally. So there will be sodium potassium ATPase pump. There will be influx of potassium and outflow of the sodium ions. Then this will drive the sodium calcium sodium exchanger, in which there will be inflow of sodium ions and outflow of calcium ions. This happens in normal condition. But now when we give digoxin in congestive cardiac failure, what happens? What is the mechanism of action? This drug inhibits sodium potassium ATPase pump. So once the sodium potassium ATPase pump is inhibited, naturally there is no inflow of potassium ions and outflow of sodium ions. So what will happen? The concentration of potassium ions into the cell is decreased, and that of sodium ions inside is increased. So now this sodium calcium exchange that occurs normally, that is inflow of sodium and outflow of calcium, is reversed. So now what will happen? There is outflow of sodium ions and there is inflow of calcium ions. Okay. There is no calcium removal as such. Okay. So this is being reversed. There will be this will move out and calcium will come in. Okay. So this exchange is reversed. So there will be increased calcium concentration inside the cell. Okay. So once the calcium concentration inside the cell is increased, it will improve the contractility of the cell. Okay. So this is the mechanism of action. So basically what you need to remember is that digoxin inhibits this sodium potassium ATPase pump, thereby reversing this sodium calcium exchange. Like there will be increased calcium influx. The calcium ions will move into the cell and sodium will move out. So this increased calcium concentration thereby will help in improving the contraction of the cell. Now, what are the pharmacological actions of digoxin? So basically at heart, it has direct effects on myocardial contractility and electrophysiological properties. So basically the force of contraction, it will increase the force of contraction. Systole is shortened, diastole is prolonged. Heart rate is decreased. And as heart rate is decreased, so the O2 consumption is also not increased as per its increased force of contraction. That is the importance of this drug. So heart rate is decreased by two actions, either by vagal action or extravagal action. Now by vagal action, it will increase the vagal tone reflexly by sensitization of baroreceptors as well as by stimulation of vagal center. Okay. So this is the first mechanism, that is vagal action. Then there is second mechanism, which is extravagal action. So here there is a direct depressant action on SA node and AV nodes. Now this component of bradycardia is not reversed by atropine. The extravagal action will not be reversed. The vagal action, it will be reversed by atropine, the bradycardia by vagal action, but this component will not be reversed by atropine. Okay. So, and the next part is conduction. AV conduction is demonstrably depressed, okay, by digoxin. So at heart you have seen increased force of contraction, decreased heart rate and decreased conduction, AV conduction. Now at blood vessels, it has mild direct vasoconstrictor action. It has no prominent effect on blood pressure, but systolic BP may increase, diastolic may fall in CHF patient and pulse pressure increases. And hypertension is not a contraindication per se for the use of digoxin. Okay. Now kidney, there is diuresis that will occur promptly in CHF patients. Now it is secondary to improvement in circulation and renal perfusion. Okay. There is no diuresis occurs in normal individuals. At CNS, the high doses will produce central sympathetic stimulation, mental confusion, disorientation, and visual disturbances. So these are the pharmacological actions at blood vessels, mild vasoconstrictor effect, kidney diuresis, and at CNS, central sympathetic stimulation. Now coming to the pharmacokinetic properties, the route of administration, it can be given orally or by intravenous route. Bioavailability of digoxin is 60 to 80%. Okay. Then it is concentrated in the heart more than that of plasma. The T half is 40 hours. Remember that it has a very long T half, that is of 40 hours. Its T half is prolonged in elderly patients and in those with renal insufficiency. And in these patients, you have to decrease the dose of digoxin. So digoxin is a cumulative drug. Okay, it keeps on accumulating in the body because it has a longer plasma T half. Okay, so remember it is a cumulative drug. Now uses, it is used in heart failure, but it is not the first choice. Okay, it is used for acute heart failure, decompensated heart failure, when you have to improve the pumping action of the heart. Okay, the because this drug it has a, it increases the contractility, the contraction of the heart, so the pumping activity is improved. So it is used for acute heart failure and decompensated CHF. It is used for arrhythmias. The arrhythmia itself is not affected, but the pumping function of the heart will improve owing to improved filling. Okay. But the first choice of drugs, beta blockers or the calcium channel blockers, these are the better choices for this arrhythmias. Now coming to the adverse effects, you have cardiac adverse effects and you have extra cardiac adverse effects. Cardiac adverse effects, you name any arrhythmia and that is the adverse effect. Okay. It can be produced by digoxin digitalis, that is atrial ventricular extrasystoles, ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation. You have AV block because you know the action at AV block, it produces, decreases the conduction. AV conduction is decreased. So AV block, there's severe bradycardia, vagal and extravagal actions. These are responsible for decreasing the heart rate. So severe bradycardia can also be the adverse effects of digoxin. Then you have extracardiac ADR. In GIT, you have anorexia, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain. Okay, and at CNS, there's mental confusion, restlessness, disorientation, drowsiness, dizziness, insomnia, nightmares. Then there's agitation, depression. So all these are the CNS adverse effects of digoxin. One more important to remember is the visual disturbances that are seen because of digoxin. That will be yellow-green visual perception. Okay, that is xanthopsia. That can also be seen in some patients, okay, who are on, who are being given digoxin. So the treatment of the adverse drug reactions of this digoxin, the first, naturally the first and foremost thing is to stop this drug. Whenever there are tachyarrhythmias, you have it is said that you can give KCL because potassium tends to antagonize the digitalis, that is digoxin induced enhanced automaticity. But if there is higher degree of AV block, then the potassium is contraindicated. Okay. For ventricular arrhythmias, you can give lidocaine. For SVTs, you can give beta blockers can be given. For bradycardia, atropine may help. Otherwise, you need to have pacing. Okay. Now, digoxin antibody. Digoxin specific antibody is effective in treating toxicity of digoxin, and that is Digibine. Okay. It is given by IV infusion and it has markedly improved the survival of this seriously digitalis intoxicated patients. Okay, Digibine. So these are the treatment of various ADRs that are seen with digoxin. Drug interactions. These are certain drug interactions you need to remember. Diuretics, they cause hypokalemia and which can increase the risk of digitalis arrhythmias. Okay, so potassium supplements should be given. Calcium will synergize with digitalis, it will precipitate the toxicity. Verapamil, diltiazem, captopril, lamitron, they increase the concentration of digoxin, so the toxicity can occur. Adrenergic drugs can induce arrhythmias because both will cause automaticity. Digoxin absorption is increased by atropinic drugs. Propranolol, verapamil, diltiazem, they additively depress AV conduction and they will oppose the positive inotropic action. Then there is succinylcholine. It can also induce arrhythmias in digitalized patients, okay, because succinylcholine itself has arrhythmias as an adverse effect, okay. Cardiotoxic actions of succinylcholine are also seen. So these are certain drug interactions. So this is the recommended therapy for various stages of congestive heart failure. This guideline is given by AHA in the according to various stages of this congestive heart failure. They have given the guideline for the management of CHF in those patients. Like in stage A, this is a high risk with no symptoms per se. You have to reduce the risk factor, you have to educate the patients, then you can give ACE inhibitors or ARBs in appropriate patients. Stage B, there is structural heart disease or there are no symptoms. All the measures under stages A and ACE inhibitors, beta blockers, this can be added in appropriate patients. In stage C, where there is structural heart disease with current symptoms, in addition to above management, in all patients you have to give ACE inhibitors, beta blockers and diuretics because they have symptoms. You have to give ACE inhibitors. You have to give diuretics because there is congestion. So you need to improve the symptoms of the patient basically. Relieve from the symptoms basically. Then in selected patients, you can give digoxin, aldosterone antagonist, and the vasodilators like nitrates and hydralazine. On stage D, in which there are refractory symptoms, in addition to above, can you need to give some continuous IV infusion of inotropes. You may require some mechanical assisted devices, or you may require to think of even transplantation, and you require to give a proper hospital care to such a patient. So this was all about the management of CHF, in which uh, in this section we have seen about the inotropic agents, the in which we have gone through dopamine, dobutamine, then there is a cardiac glycoside which is digoxin, and then we have dealt in detail with this drug digoxin. And at the end, we have seen the guidelines that are being given by AHA and ACC, that is the Cardiology Society, like what all medications will be preferred in a particular stage. So here we come to the end of our topic, that is congestive cardiac failure. Thank you.